Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, it's channels. It's like past civilizations or ancient civilizations. It talks about how they all fell, and it's really good.
Well, I don't want to give away spoilers for mine just yet, so I'll save them for now.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're all waiting with bated breath.
We're really not Tom.
So, what did you get up to?
We're really not Tom.
Well,
I caught all the way up on these standards.
in a bit.
Yeah. All the way up on. Brilliant. There you go. That's for when. That's whenever we have to ask you how your week went. I don't know. Do you think it was the Panasaurs that screwed up the business?
No, I think it was Sharon.
Why would Sharon do that though? No, she did get fucked over royally. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't care if the Panasaurs get screwed over, but Linda screwing over Sharon was not cool.
No.
Yeah, you said there's.
What's up with the drunken mom coming in?
Yeah, like I thought they were queuing up Shirley coming back or something. I was just let down by that reveal.
Well, you guys, honestly, you're asked how invited to talk about your week and what things you've been up to, and the best you can do is recount what's happened in EastEnders. Go on.
EastEnders is my life, all right?
I've had such a bad week, to be honest with you. I mean, if I was going to go into it, I would take it the whole freaking hard. And I don't think it was just one bad thing after another. So I just want to just mainly silent. Well, the only thing I would say is that I wish I was on last week's pissed off show, because people who pissed me off would be anybody who reported on King Charles' freaking coronation.
Oh, don't even get me started. What an absolute bloody monument to that man's ego that entire thing was. We're in the middle of a cost of living crisis. What the hell was that even about? Oh, there's just been billions on this.
Well, no, I don't care about that. I think, in the end run, I mean, 1953, were they that far out of still queuing for like rations and stuff? Yeah. I don't think they were. But the thing about it is that, it was just the sycophantic thing where everybody was like, oh, look at this. And one guy freaking started crying. You know what I mean? One journalist started crying. I'm just like, oh, fuck. You know what I mean? That's just way too much, in my opinion. To be overcome by emotion by that is just, I mean, I get it, sort of, but I don't get it. Especially since they always talk like, and I'm just saying this as a person from the United Kingdom, but not from England. They just talk about England all the freaking time. They don't talk about any other thing. That's all there is. It's just England. He's the king of England. Blah blah blah. He's actually the king of a lot more people than that. Even Canada is he's still the head of the country. Still on the money. So
the Queen was on Australia's money. I don't think they're going to put Charlie on any of their money, though.
I don't think so either. But it does get tedious whenever it's just like, he's a Scottish king as well. I mean, I can understand why you don't talk about Wales that much, because he would. But
is it even a country? I mean, really?
Wow. That's debatable, isn't it? I mean, really, isn't it sort of
I'm getting
debatable?
screwed up which way.
It's like saying Cornwall's a country. The accents are silly and the scenery is nice, but it's not a separate country.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get too much into it, but at the same point in time, it's just like, there are other places in the United Kingdom other than England. Believe me, that probably want to be part of the United Kingdom more than people in England. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. Northern Ireland's always weird like that. I was trying to explain to Sam the other day, how in the before the First World War, they were, the Unionists in Northern Ireland were willing to fight the British Army to stay British. And that's I've never heard of anything like that. You know what I mean?
That's a unique form of stubbornness.
Yes, it was. Well, it was just because they just did not want to be part of the Free State. Right or wrong? Right or wrong?
They were willing to fight the British Army to stay British.
Yeah, they basically formed the UVF, which was the Ulster Volunteer Force, and at that point in time, I'm not talking about the terrorists. No, that is not. But they basically had an army of 100,000 people that were armed. They bought arms from Germany, snuck it in. They had different regimental things, had a headquarters company. I mean, it was all ex-British soldiers, a lot of them. And, like I said, they were, if the army had come in to try to enforce 32 County Ireland, that they were willing to fight that. And so they thought, okay, well, they would be damaged so badly that they wouldn't want to do it. So then whenever First World War swung around, they basically incorporated all those different parts of the Unionist Army into 36 Ulster Division, and a lot of the Nationalists into the 16th Irish Division, and a lot of those, because of the promises, they said, okay, well, if you fight for us, we'll say we won't turn Northern Ireland over to the Free State, and they told the Republicans, if you fight for us, then we will do something about self-rule. So there you go. And then those two divisions fought at the Battle of the Somme, and basically everybody got killed. Problem solved. So anyway.
Wash our hands of that one. Job well done, lads.
Well, the sad part about it is that, from that standpoint, the Unionists go on and on and on about it. You know what I mean? But the Republicans never did. For those folks on a promise. So, what you going to do when they come for you? What you gonna do? So that's a little bit of history there, and they don't really talk about it ever. But,
That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, Lord Carson was, when they signed the Ulster Covenant, which was, the covenant said that they would never become Republican. The Somme Association that I worked for at one point in time had they owned Craigavon House, which is where they signed it. And that big desk that they had with the Union Jack on it is still there. Still have it in there. Nobody goes into that room. You know what I mean? It's weird.
Yeah.
Very old. But that's life, isn't it? Extremely old.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. There's always weird things like that happen. I mean, that comes down to, what we're going to talk about as a topic today. How people remember things.
Just quickly, if I'll say a little bit about my week. School has been cool. I've been actually had a really, really good laugh with my team for possibly the first time. Well, we've laughed.
Was it about that Becky bitch?
We've done a good joke together, and when that's happening, I think that shows that I must be doing something right. Put it that way. So that's cool. I had
Tell us about Becky.
Parents, they may know how annoying this experience is. If you don't have kids, it's another reason to be grateful you did. I don't mean that. I love this really, but we've been given for the third time recently. We've been given the class toy to take home, and it's a lovely thing. It's great to do with. With Reese. It's just a pain having to remember it all the time because McDonald's, go to the shops. Oh, damn, forgot the bloody fox, because you take home the class mascot. And just the problem is with me and my memory, it's such a pain to forget the bloody thing. But I managed to remember to take it out today for a walk. And then you have to remember to take pictures. So it is within the line of remembering things, actually. I have to remember to take pictures. I have to remember to do all kinds of daft things with it, like pretend to have a drink of water. We've had it pretend to look through the binoculars in the hide where we went for a walk today. Richard, I've taken some pictures for you. And then you have to remember when we go to have a curry afterwards with my mum and dad, to feed the little fox a bit of poppadom and take a picture of that. And then I don't begrudge it at all. It's just a pain to have to keep remembering, because it's hard enough to keep track of where my son Reese is going and where he's running off to as it is, let alone having to remember to have a fox chase him and take pictures of this little cuddly fox all the time. So no, I'm mucking about entirely. I love this thing. I just the meanness of me makes it a more tiresome experience than it should be.
Yeah, well, it's tough. It's tough, It's tough whenever you've got something like that comes up, and you just give it all your all. It reminds me of Ian Beale. Richard reminds me of Ian Beale, and
How so?
He had nothing left.
No.
He lived. Oh God, no.
That was a classic moment in EastEnders right there, buddy.
When did he, was he groveling to Phil?
Yeah, I think so. He was crying.
No, that was.
Oh, I'm fucking
when
this shit up,
the
Darren.
bankruptcy went through. Oh no, he might have been groveling to Phil.
Well, remember that scene where they're both gurning? That was a Northern Irish word. Crying. Where Phil and Ian. It was that was a good moment. They don't have good moments like that anymore. They don't. Like you said, whenever we were in pre-show. It's kind of a lackluster week this week, even though
they had Roxy come back and do a CD. And I was like, well, at least now that means that her last ever scene in EastEnders wasn't a death sequence, which years of therapy still has not expunged from my brain. Until Danny Dyer jumped off the cliffs of Stover, that was literally, Roxy's death was literally the most ludicrous moment in EastEnders for me.
yes. Although they did get the death certificate this week. Death certificate. And what I don't understand about that is there's no body, right? So he is, technically probably got amnesia somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, they've left it open in case he wants to come back. But
yeah.
He's doing game shows on Channel 4 now, so Jesus, Danny, go back to EastEnders. Have some.
Well, remember how he got famous? Danny Dyer was like the football.
The movie star.
Well, but then he started going to all these different football matches. Oh God, dude, see Rangers versus Celtics, one of the scariest places you could be. I'm gonna be in the Rangers end.
With my cameras and heavy security, so nothing bad's actually going to happen to me.
Yeah, I'm snuck in. I got a ticket. I'm snuck in. I'm gonna get snuck in, and then I'm gonna get stuck in. Although he never does.
Well, you guys try to remember exactly when Ian Beale said that grovelling thing certainly does lead neatly into today's topic.
One last thing about Danny Dyer. I was replaying Grand Theft Auto Vice City, and he's only got a voice line. He plays a character in that, and I never knew that.
Oh, right.
One of the first things he did with his career. I recognised his voice right away. I was like, holy crap.
That was before the Football Factory?
Yeah, Vice City, damn. That was when I was a kid, before I was even a teenager.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of when that film came out, Football Factory. But that was the thing that made him look like a real sort of hard man. And then And
it's a really shit movie as well. I'm just gonna say that.
Yeah, but it's still better than Green Street. Sorry, man.
Yeah, right, fair enough.
That was the shittest movie about football hooligans I've ever seen.
What was?
Green Street Hooligans. I mean, just look it up. It's an American guy who goes and lives with his sister in London.
Oh God!
That her husband is the head of a firm, and they end up obviously they're Green Street. What? They're Hammers fans, something like that. West Ham, and so they get into these escalating fights with this other group, and it ends up that somebody goes to the other side, tells him where he lives, and all this stuff, sets up this big thing, and next thing you know, like the brother-in-law gets killed. I can't. Who is it? It was the guy who played like Frodo.
Elijah Wood, yeah.
Yeah, it was the main person, and he weighs about 98 pounds. I don't necessarily think that's the type of slim, thin, slight body that you'd want to come up against.
I think the best, one of the only films I know about football hooliganism is ID, which I think was made in the mid-90s, set in East London. It's a really, really good classic British, gritty Channel 4 type film.
Yeah.
Channel 4.
Kind of thing. It's really, really good. It's about four police officers that go undercover to try and get to the heart of this football hooligan gang, and basically one of them becomes a football hooligan, and that's the story. It's told so well. It's so believable. It's really it's got some great performances, some great set pieces. It's a really, really good film. I love it. It's called ID.
Yeah, I should check that out. One of the things I always find interesting is the Football Factory, they support Chelsea. That's right. And the Green Street Hooligans, they support West Ham. But obviously West Ham is always sort of looked at as a hooligan place. In competition.
Sam's sister Chelsea is into crocheting cuss words.
I mean, the way that they make Millwall sign, I would never want to go see a match at Millwall. But anyway,
my dad's a diehard Millwall supporter.
Is he?
Go Millwall!
Did you ever get in any fights back in the day? Where I remember whenever I started watching football, that the Chelsea, they had a big pit around the Chelsea thing, and they had an electric fence. They had an electric fence so people couldn't go onto the pitch. I mean, that's how bad it was.
Oh, wow.
They still didn't have.
I seen an electric fence today to keep the asses inside.
Still a lot of places that are still like that. But in the EPL, you can't do that. You can't have a terrace like that where you get pushed into the thing. I suppose that was because of several disasters.
Survival of the fittest, bro.
Anyway.
Push them in.
But yeah, I love that. I love my West Ham. Come on, the Gooners. Yeah, I know. But he does say that in the one where
you
he
are
makes his
good.
talk like a real man. Come with Arsenal is.
They always try to walk hard and walk it off.
Yeah. So that's a good episode of the IT. I love that episode of the IT Drive. And then he.
Oh man, I tried watching that show.
He's talking to being like the getaway driver.
You definitely have to be British to like that show.
Good shit. Good episode. So the Mandela effect.
Mandela effect. He died
Take it away,
in
Will.
prison.
Tom doesn't know what it is, but basically,
I know what it is.
the weird phenomenon of huge groups of people misremembering things.
Yeah, it's weird.
The most, what it's named after is that a large amount of people believe that Nelson Mandela died in prison. But the most famous example of it is Tom. What does the wicked witch say to the mirror in Snow White?
Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?
She actually says a magic mirror on the wall.
Oh, yes. I read an article about this on BBC News not that long ago, and that was cited as an example. You are right.
It's the most famous example. Another good example is in Casablanca. Everyone remembers him saying, "Play it again, Sam," but he never says it in the movie.
Yeah, but I think that what happens is that a lot of people that take that popular reference and then change it to their thing, and then maybe I think a lot of people who remember "Play It Again, Sam" or that verbiage have never actually seen Casablanca. You know what I mean? It's a funny thing where you just sort of take people's reference for it, and then because they make fun of it or something like that, then that's it. What I find is interesting for me, Tom and Richard, is things like book titles that people remember incorrectly. You know what I mean? And I'm talking about the Bernstein Bears versus the Bernstein Bears. You know what I mean? Or the Berenstein Bears. That's one of those ones where people, they're convinced that whenever they were children, that it was, one way and now it's another way. And that's kind of a funny thing where, or cereal boxes that supposedly they changed the name or the spelling or whatever of something. And that's the thing that's always in popular culture, where people remember their childhood in a certain way. But I think what's interesting about it is that people have very poor memories of their childhood anyway. You know what I mean? You sort of block out things you don't want to remember, and it's almost like you have a nostalgia filter on your childhood, and you don't want to think about how crap it was at times. Because I looked at it from at times. My childhood wasn't as great as you would think it was. If you look at it from the standpoint of, you do look back on it and you say, oh, well, I miss this and I miss that, But I don't miss going into the spar and being searched, I had my childhood, I went through a metal. I mean, a lot of times people are like, oh, look at these kids, they have to go through a metal detector to go into school. I had to go through a metal detector to go to the 7-Eleven, you know what I mean? Because that's the way it was, and still you have nostalgia about that, in a way, because in a certain way.
I miss the Troubles. Those are the best of days.
No, but what I'm saying is I'm saying that from this standpoint is you think you're harder than everybody else because you went through it. You know what I mean? And so that's just one of those things where you look at it and go, well, yeah, that's nothing. You know what I mean? That's just. That's nothing. And so you do become callous to it. You know what I mean? And so that's one of those things where, I think 60% of the people in Northern Ireland or more that are my age are on some kind of antidepressant. But all I'm saying is that from that standpoint, if you don't have that nostalgia filter and you look at it like that, how many children in America are going to be on antidepressants by the time they graduate high school? If they think, okay, somebody's going to come in and shoot, and nobody's going to do anything about it.
That's the least of the kids' problems. High school shootings is actually the least of the problems. Have you seen TikTok? They've got much bigger problems than bloody high school shootings. It's in fashion to have mental health disorders, so they're all going on TikTok pretending to have mental health disorders, which ironically is actually a mental health disorder, punching outfits. But it's still rather amusing, School shootings the least of their problems.
Well, yeah, I think that's true. You know, Munchausen's disease. If people don't know, it's named after the book Baron Munchausen, and Baron Munchausen, you know, would have these fantasies about all these different things. You know, and so people would basically fantasize that they were ill. And there's another disease called Munchausen's by proxy, where you know they name, you know, they're convinced that their children have diseases. You know, so they basically come in and insist that their children are always sick when they're not, and so that does in a lot of ways compound the situation, because at that point in time, the child in that situation always thinks that they are sick, so that they can't differentiate, you know, between the cognitive dissonance of my mom saying I'm sick and actually feeling well. But you know,
that's what happened to Gypsy Rose Blanchard, and then she murdered her mother. So,
well, well, no, I'm just saying for that standpoint, TikTok, as far as that goes, is in everybody's head all the time. I mean, you know, if you look at it like that, obviously Facebook is the equivalent to that if you're looking at an older age. You know what I mean? Facebook changed their algorithms now, so actually I'm not being pumped full of political stuff all the time. It's nice because I actually see people's pictures and that now.
I don't know who designs that algorithm, but they've got me down pat. All my targeted ads are busty women in low-cut tops. I'm like, you bastards know how to sell to me.
Well, are they trying to sell you busty women in low-cut tops, or are they trying to...
I wish, but it's usually one of them sponsored content ads, and I click on it, and then it's like, here's how I made this much money in 10 days, and there's not a busty woman in a low-cut top to be seen anywhere.
Yeah. I've noticed that a lot. I've noticed that that even though I haven't looked at any sort of pornographic material in a long, long time,
How low?
they are trying to like slip in the big busted women. I don't know.
I can't. That's what's interesting. I literally can't look at my at pornography because my ISP, the only one that's available around here, shuts that down. Won't carry it on the network. So I literally can't use the internet to look at porn. So there's no way Facebook could know that busty women in low-cut tops is going to make me click on something unless working it out through the algorithm.
Right.
So they.
So let me ask you a question. If you got a VPN or a virtual private network that ran over that, couldn't you bypass it?
I probably could, but you know, I don't really want to look at porn that badly.
Well, it's like $2 a month, man. I'm just saying. I mean, you know,
Kevin, technology's moved on since, you know, Playboy and Razzle.
I was trying.
Pictures of women, or you know,
you've already got them downloaded. Then
I was trying to find something to fix the crotch on my bikini, and if you look up crotch on YouTube, you will find tons of porn.
I need to watch videos anymore.
You just ain't looking for the right shit if you ain't finding porn.
So, do they have the virtual reality yet?
I wasn't even looking for porn. I was looking for repair for my
it's only a matter of moments before I
laundry.
went in that bloody direction. I can't say I'm completely shocked.
I mean, I would think that, you know, you'd have to be hooked up in multiple places.
I think AI is going to be really disappointed about how easy we are to manipulate. They'll have us like all these cunning plans to take over the planet, and then it'll at some point work out it just needs to distract us with a big pair of tits, and it'll rule the planet.
Yeah,
and it's going to be really disappointed.
Right. That's my thing. I mean, you know, you know, if they wanted to stop the Iraq War, you know, all they had to do was like fly the Goodyear blimp over, you know, paint it pink and put a nipple on the front of it.
That'd work. That'd work for us.
Look at the shit.
Look at this huge stonking pair of boobs. You don't want to fight each other now, do you?
No. Make love, not war.
I'd love to see someone make a movie about that. You know, like The Matrix and Terminator. Only instead of a big war where we get enslaved, they just distract us with tits.
Well, you know, in a way that works. I mean, you know,
It'd work on women as well.
Oh yeah, for real.
You think so?
Oh yeah.
A lot of women like tits. So
Well, they do admire a good tit. I'm not gonna lie to you. I mean, I've met a lot of ones that like a big, you know, like I said, but it's not always the big ones, Richard. You know, they just have to be nice. You know what I mean?
just have to be eye country.
Well, I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, and the ones that are not, the ones that are, you know, hidden away sometimes are forbidden fruit. That's the way I look at it. I don't know.
Anyway, well, Jesus, how did we get to this?
I don't know. It's not. We've come a long way away from the original topic of the Mandela.
Yeah, we're supposed to be talking about the Mandela effect. You see, that's how well it works. You know, we're already distracted from what we were talking about. Anyway,
Yes.
Distracted by
What
boobies.
other examples are you know, through history? I think, you know,
historically, let's see. Oh, there's a very famous painting of Henry VIII eating a turkey leg.
yeah.
Everyone remember that? Everyone got a clear image in their mind of that painting?
No, I don't.
No, I don't.
Show
know,
us.
but
Screenshot.
then again, I'm a student of Henry VIII.
You're not a student.
I'm Henry VIII. I am Henry.
No, I asked, you're not a student or you are a student.
But no, I am a student of Tudor times.
Anyone that went to school in the United Kingdom is a student of that. I said, that pisses me off. Elizabeth I was the greatest monarch we ever had, and all we ever learned about was Henry VIII. It's proof that humans love drama even back then. But I digress. But there is a famous painting of him eating a turkey leg. We've all heard about it. You know. Right? You all remember that?
I haven't seen that. I think people remember that, and I don't think it's true.
Well, it doesn't exist at all. You're right.
No. But you know, but the thing about it is that do conspiracy theories play into this a wee bit? You know, like the idea, for example, you know, if you look at things where you know, people remember certain events a certain way, but is that not a way of you know, psychological warfare in a way? Because, you know, at the time they declared Hitler dead, for example, which I think was April 30th, or May 1st, nobody really knows, that you know, when they found him, they had very little evidence that he was dead, and very little evidence that he is dead, or died at the time, and could have gotten away, but everybody was convinced that they said that was the way it was. The guy who determined that was a you know, some kind of lecturer at Cambridge University on history. He wasn't an expert in forensics or anything like that. Just declared that he was dead, and everybody believed it, except for the FBI and you know, Stalin said, "Oh, no, he's still alive."
Someone from the chat. Rod Dupree. I believe the Mandela effect is a physical proof of multiple timeline theory. You're actually remembering stuff from a timeline that you're no longer following.
Right. You know, like that. The idea that the multiverse theory, that you come back. So somebody comes back in history. You know, like you can time travel. They come back and change something, so that changes the timeline, and then they're stranded in time. You see what I'm saying? So basically, the idea is that you go to an alternate. Whenever that thing changes, we go to an alternate timeline. That person is then stuck in our timeline, so they can't ever return back to their time. But you have to have you have to have multiple. That idea of everything that could happen has happened, and so, you know, every time you make a choice, your alter ego or whatever splits off, and then that's the choice they make. You make one choice, and then they spiders out like a root system. So you have an infinite amount of of possibilities. And like I said, you've made every perfect choice in your life in one of them. You've made every wrong decision in another one, and then there's you. So
kick the crap out of the Richard that made all the right decisions. That smug bastard.
Yeah. But
all right, Gabby, just for the sake of argument, Catherine of Aragon, Anne of Cleves, Anne Boleyn, Jane Seymour, Anne of Cleves, Catherine Howard, Catherine Parr. So.
Go, Richard.
What was it? Divorced. What was it?
Divorced, beheaded,
died. Divorced, beheaded, survived. But he would have gotten bored of Jane Seymour eventually. All right, she just got out when the getting was good. Yeah, but I suppose that's preferable. What he did to Catherine Howard was just messed up, man. I mean, the girl was 17.
Oh, gross. I don't know, 17's pretty old, though.
For cheating on him or something.
Yeah.
You gotta get him while
she was having it away. But, you know.
He wanted that baby boy.
And, you know, she was having an affair with somebody. So that wasn't going to. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Whereas Anne Boleyn's brother was tortured into saying that they were having an incestuous relationship, and that's how she got pregnant. I mean, that's you know,
contrived to say the least.
Right. And so, but the other one was young. You know, by that time, Henry VIII was heavily overweight. He had that abscess on his leg that would not heal. So apparently, you know, he suffered from gout regularly. He had the abscess on his leg from a jousting accident that would not heal. So he smelled like rotten flesh. Now, would you really want to, you know, straddle up on that bad boy and take it for a ride around the park? I don't think so. You know, I just, you know, he was smelly, in a bad mood all the time because he couldn't get this abscess to heal. He was in pain all the time. So he was just a prick.
He was a dickhead to begin with as well. So
right.
Well, yeah, didn't he have syphilis or something? And that's
no lie. Oh, no doubt. He had every STI. It was possible. Yeah.
Well, no, it wasn't known that he did, but the one that had syphilis and died from it was Al Capone. That he contracted syphilis at a very sort of young age from a prostitute. And back then, the only thing that you could try to do to sort of treat syphilis was mercury injections and directly up your urethra,
which gave you a whole different host of other problems.
Oh my God, Mercury! Are you serious?
A night with Venus, a lifetime with Mercury. That's the saying.
Yeah. You can look it up. You can look it up.
Is that a saying? Is that really a saying?
That was a saying. Yeah.
Yeah. You can really look up the syringes that they used to use to shoot it up your urethra.
Oh no, that's too much, guys. That's all wrong.
At least maggots actually work. That was one of the things they used to use. But the rest of it,
to clean out the infection, they would you would use maggots because maggots primarily only eat sort of dead and you know what do you call that?
Gangrenous
flesh that's rotted, you know, like died away. I mean, normally now they
narcosis. Narcosis.
Not an uneffective way. You know, I think the Vietnamese soldiers were still doing that if they got war.
Okay.
Anyway, Mandela effect. We've been sidetracked again.
Well, because we start on a thing and then it does change. I mean, you know, like the idea of, for example, that people remember, battles differently and things like that. I mean, like Winston Churchill, for example, was a big military screw up before World War II. And so, but we all remember him as this sort of military genius, but he wasn't. He was in on the planning of Gallipoli. He was the admiral, sea admiral or whatever you call it. And he was terrible. And, but when he was prime minister, everybody was like, yeah, it's great. He's great. But I mean, I'm glad he didn't plan anything. That's that idea of that. And I mean, does it count whenever you use propaganda to change things? Because obviously Hitler's life when he was a child was not the way he portrayed it.
I'm interested. Do you think he was alive when they found him?
Hitler?
Yeah.
I think he got away, mate. I really do think he got away because they had multiple ways of escape. There was a very famous
I need a lotion.
female pilot that landed on the river that went through Berlin, and she had gone in there like a few days before, and I think he was out of the bunker before they even said that he died. I think that they actually threw those two lookalikes in there.
When Hitler did the decent thing and killed Hitler.
But again, shooting yourself in the forehead is extremely hard to do unless you,
I don't think that would be a forehead shot.
Then, but I think he was alive when they found him.
Could be.
It'd be more like temple.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't really think. I mean, you'd have to sum it.
He was very afraid that he would end up like Mussolini and his.
There's nothing.
Who had gotten captured
because you hold it like that, and I gotta turn that around like that. Really?
And,
That's how I'm gonna choose to do it.
I think
hung by piano wire.
Of all things, I'm gonna do that.
Upside down.
It's the most uncomfortable
their
shit.
Bodies were exposed.
That's like that kid who got put in the fucking bullshit.
Piano wire is the nastiest stuff.
Found him locked in a gym bag in the tub. Said it was suicide.
Yeah.
Death by misadventure.
Another example of the Mandela effect, a really good one, in a desperate attempt to get us to stay on topic, is that the Monopoly guy does not have a monocle.
No, Mr. Peanut has a monocle.
Yes, because Mr. Peanut has a monocle. So people remember that rich thing as a certain archetype. That's what I'm. That's why I think. That's why I think people think that the Monopoly guy has a monocle. I mean, I don't know. You guys don't have Mr. Peanut over there, do you? Mr. Peanut's peanuts.
Yeah.
He's like a peanut with a top hat and wears a monocle.
Fuck yeah.
So I think people, but wearing a monocle isn't that mainly, sort of a British thing? I mean, I don't know how many people in America wore a monocle. You could imagine lots of people in sort of #1 dress at a party.
I just couldn't even imagine what that'd be like. What is that even for?
But I can't.
Why would you only want to have see?
Many Americans wearing a monocle in history.
All right, you knew that one. But here's one that's going to break you.
Break me.
There's a dude in Tiananmen Square who stopped a tank.
Wait, what?
Everyone remembers that.
No, they ran his ass over.
Wasn't he run over? Killed?
No. In fact, he never got that close to the tank. He was forcibly removed by security.
So was that a Photoshop job?
They cut out the middle. They spliced
You think?
No,
two
that's
photos.
just a still from the video where he's standing in front of the tank before the security grabbed him.
Oh, okay. And then was he killed in jail then? Is that what happened?
He didn't die.
He didn't die.
No.
well, see, there you go. You got me on that one. I was convinced that he did die.
I guess he ran over.
That's I think that because other people died, right? So I assumed that was what happened to him. That's sort of.
I guess he got run over too.
That would be just too much for the Chinese to put up with. You know what I mean? Since they don't like
the only other famous example of the Mandela effect is the Curious George doesn't have a tail, but I don't remember him having a tail. In fact, I was very annoyed about that because I know about animals, and I was like, if they're saying he's a monkey, he's got to have a tail, unless he's a gibbon. Gibbons don't have tails. He wasn't a gibbon; he was clearly a monkey.
Right.
And the rest are just movie lines.
I think there's got to be a difference, hasn't there, between.
Was he not supposed to be like a chimpanzee then?
He's a monkey.
Right. So Curious George is some kind of a monkey, not a chimpanzee.
Yeah.
I think what I was going to say was, guys, that doesn't there have to be a difference between something that is incorrectly passed on through generations, like something that like magic mirror on the wall. You know, that's something that has been misremembered, but culturally and over generations. Whereas something that's more recent, like lots of people believing Mandela died in prison, that's something that has happened within most people's lifetimes. Most people. The death of Nelson Mandela was not particularly long ago. I mean, there was there was the Free Nelson Mandela song in the 1980s. Then Then he was released from prison. He and wasn't it de Klerk were awarded a joint Nobel Peace Prize.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing about Mandela.
And then they were, I mean, this is at least in our timeline, and then he became president of South Africa, ran for one term, then retired. I've still got a copy of the newspaper article. I keep a scrapbook, and I've got some, and I've definitely got the article Nelson Mandela walks away into retirement. Probably sometime in the late 90s, I would imagine. And then he died peacefully at his home, I think, surrounded by family, in sometime in the. I'm not sure when. It wasn't terrible. Within maybe about 10 years ago. So I'm not sure exactly.
Right. I think it's funny that people don't remember that Nelson Mandela was the president of South Africa. And then the thing that I think is maybe the reason for that is because Winnie Mandela she became a leader, and she was having it away with somebody else. She was having an affair, and maybe that's why it sounded like Winnie and Nelson got a divorce, and then she never really talked about him much anymore. So he did sort of disappear into sort of obscurity in a weird way, because she was overshadowed by a lot of different changes. I don't know, but it does seem strange that people don't remember that.
Yeah, I've just looked it up on Wikipedia. He didn't die. I was by chance. I was exactly right. 10 years ago, 5th of December 2013.
Right.
So yeah, that's what happened. And it's really strange to me that there's a big, wider cultural misremembering or lack of memory of him.
Well, I think what's funny is that he's put in the same classification as sort of a Martin Luther King Jr., who obviously was assassinated, and so it's that sort of misremembering of these folks as. Because you always say that the fight for for African American or African black folks, basically. It comes down to sort of Malcolm X being killed, um, Fred Hampton being killed, Martin Luther King Jr. being killed, Emmett Till being killed, and then they just say, as long as that, you're going to also remember sort of Nelson Mandela being, I think what was it called, like Robinette Prison or something like that, or Robin Island or something. I mean, it was a massively depressing place that he was in prison in, and then he got moved to other locations. But just everything bad that could happen to somebody in prison basically happened to him at the hands of the guards. So that's life in a nutshell. But I mean, you can go to like Robben Island prison and all those different things and just see how crap it was. But that's sort of the idea of when you are labeled a terrorist. What's weird about it? Like in Northern Ireland, they have like the H block, and then they had like sort of the Republicans in one place, the Loyalists in the other. And so it sort of foments into ideas about what's going to happen when you're going to get out. But again, that's the idea of if the state determines you're a terrorist, you're a terrorist. That's the way that goes. You know what I mean? I mean that is the difference. What's the difference between a freedom fighter and a terrorist? Opinion. I mean, that's just opinion. That's it. Basically, if you don't win, if you win, you're a freedom fighter. If you don't win, you're a terrorist. You can't tell me that Britain didn't think that George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and those guys were just basically terrorists. But they won, so they're freedom fighters.
Freedom. All right. So before we wrap things up for this week, Gary will be very angry at me if I don't mention the fact that the Sinbad movie, The Mandela Effect. I never really mentioned that when talking about the Mandela Effect because I don't remember there ever being a Sinbad movie. I've actually seen the Shaquille O'Neal Kazam movie, and let me tell you, if you'd seen that, you just can't get that shit out of your head, Gavin.
No, that was like a 1960s movie that had who was it? Ray Harryhausen that did the stop motion effects in that. You should watch it. I can't remember who was Sinbad. It was a pretty famous actor at the time.
No, the rapper Sinbad, or the actor. He played a genie.
Oh, not Sinbad the movie.
People remember Sinbad, the rapper or actor, playing a genie, but it was actually Shaquille O'Neal.
Oh no! Sinbad was a comedian. He always wore like he won Star Search, I think, a couple of times against like Dennis Miller and people like that. But you guys wouldn't have seen Star Search there.
The important thing is people remember him being in a genie movie, and he wasn't. It was Shaquille O'Neal. It's never affected me because I saw the Shaquille O'Neal movie, and you can't get that shit out of your head. Yeah. I've tried.
Sinbad was in Good Burger. If you ever know that, Good Burger.
That's a great movie. I love Good Burger.
Yeah, Good Burger.
But that genie. I'd rather watch Space Jam, man. On repeat.
I've never seen Space Jam.
Oh, you lucky bastard. There's some things you just can't see.
Okay, let me ask you a question. What's the worst movie you've ever seen and had to rewatch?
The worst movie I've ever seen was Zombie Strippers.
And had to rewatch it?
Yeah.
I can't remember what. The Toxic Avenger was mine.
That one is pretty terrible.
Yeah.
Wow, I can think of a couple. There's two where there's the third in the series was absolutely abysmal. One, for me, and I know many people will disagree, and many Johnny Depp fans will hate me for for it, but Pirates of the Caribbean 3 was absolutely excruciating.
Was that the one at the World's End?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that was like.
Oh, it was agony. And if I'd have been on my own, I would have walked away. Another one that is the RoboCop 3. Oh my word! To call it scraping the barrel is to do a disservice to barrels. I mean, it's
I'm surprised I haven't got RoboCop versus Alien here.
All right. Well, what did you think of Predator 2 then?
The second one, that was mad.
What, the old one?
Yeah, the Predator, and then Predator 2 came out with Maria Conchita Alonso as
very good.
Yeah.
The recent film, the recent Predator and Prey.
Anyway.
Are you ending it?
What happened, Richard?
I hadn't even
dropping in and out.
I hadn't even finished I was thinking too long to get to the point. The worst film I ever saw, I can't remember its title. It was a film that looked like it was about American football that Hannah and I rented from Blockbuster back when it was a thing. And when we put this film on, it soon became clear that it was not a normal film made for everyday audiences. It wasn't porn either. That's not where I'm going. No.
Oh.
It was an ultra Christian film made by a Christian film company by Christians for Christians. It was about how God wanted a football team to win, and also made the impotent coach, his wife, get pregnant. It was Christian propaganda.
Oh yeah.
And we took it back and we explained all this, and they actually gave us our money back.
Oh my God.
I'd never do that based on the film being shit, but because I managed to convince them that it literally had no place in mainstream film.
Right.
Wow, you can't put that on the shelves.
Well, I can tell you, as a Bolton Wanderers supporter, I will say that I have prayed to God to have us win sometime.
Anyway,
that has fallen on deaf ears.
Oh
I can't remember its
man,
title, but it was special.
that sounds great.
that'll wrap us up for this week. We will return next week, despite the hopes of many, where we will be discussing favorite YouTube videos. It's good night from
This
me,
one.
and it's good night from them.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.